What's up guys, Enkiri here, and welcome to vlog number 82. Today's session is all about the volume. I started off with the strict press here, which I paired up with a few sets of band pull-aparts, and then I finished up the day with some Larsen presses paired up with strict curls, which is a combo I'm really enjoying at the moment. But starting off with the strict presses here, I'm using 152.5 pounds for this session, and the goal going into it was to see if I could do all 4 sets of 7 reps, which I failed to do. I only managed to do 2 sets of 7 here, and then I had to settle for just 6 reps on the last 2 sets. This was the second time I had used 152.5 pounds for this workout. The first go around, I only went in attempting 4 sets of 6 because that's been my goal every time I'm using a heavier weight for the first time. And the session before that was the one where I completed the full 4x7 with 150 pounds, which I showed you guys in my vlog number 76 for those who are interested. This time around, I just didn't quite have enough in me to squeeze out that last rep on sets 3 and 4. It's funny how much of a difference those 2.5 pounds can make on this exercise, especially over the course of so many total reps. It really starts to add up more than you think it will. And I'm confident that I would have been able to complete the full 4x7 on my 3rd try the following week. However, at this point, I was starting to get a little bit bored with the rep scheme here, and this was about the time I decided to change things up a little bit and throw in a little bit of push pressing into the mix. I've also started messing around with some seated overhead pressing. That's seated as in sitting on a flat bench, so there's no torso support, which is kind of a game changer there. And also dropping the regular standing strict press in favor of overhead presses off of pins, which I'm experimenting with some cluster singles with at the moment. And lastly, I've also reintroduced the weighted dip into the routine once more at a lower frequency than usual, but I'm still hoping to see some gains there in spite of that. All in all, this was solid work though, really not a bad conclusion to this little volume phase here. I started this specific session off with 140 pounds at the beginning of the training block and slowly but surely worked my way up to here, and I definitely noticed myself becoming more efficient over the course of the block. So that's good news. And I just want to touch on the pull-aparts very briefly here because I don't think I've ever posted these before. But basically, I'll just throw these in place of face pulls every now and then, mostly just for a change of pace. I didn't even pay attention to how many reps I was doing in each set here, but usually what I do is I just pick a total number of reps, generally 100, and I just do as many sets as I need to get that total rep number. I only put 2 of the sets in the video here because they're pretty fucking boring to watch, but you guys get the idea. I like to keep a slight bend in my elbows when I do these, and I feel like that allows me to really focus the tension onto my upper back and pulling the band apart using scapular retraction rather than just pulling it with my arms. It gets me a good pump and I really feel it nicely. Anyway, after the strict presses, I moved on to the Larsen press paired up with some strict curls. I'm up to 170 pounds with the Larsen presses and 90 pounds on the curls. The goal for each of these movements is just to do 5 sets of 10 reps, which is actually pretty tough to do. The first 3 sets you generally seem to be able to cruise through, and then the last 2 you just kind of start to run out of steam, and you end up with a pretty noticeable drop off in performance. But here I did pretty well. I managed to get 4 sets of 10 on the Larsen press and then just 9 reps on the final set. So you'll see that I rack it, rest for a few seconds there, and then knock out the 50th rep that way just because. The curls were much easier in a relative sense. I'm only increasing the weight on both of these exercises every 4th session, I think, or maybe every 5th session. I'm using the same weight at least 3 or 4 times on each exercise is what I'm saying. Usually 3 times with the same weight on the bench and 4 times with the same weight on the curls. And I think this was actually my 3rd time with 170 here on the bench and my 4th time with 90 pounds on the curls. So the curls were pretty solid actually. It was feeling easy from the get-go, so I decided to throw in a few extra reps on the first few sets, which worked out just fine. It didn't gas me out by the end or anything, so I knew it was definitely time to increase the weight there. With the bench, what I'm doing is every time I go up in weight, I'm just shooting for 5 sets of 8 reps in week 1, then 5 sets of 9 in week 2, and then finally 5 sets of 10 in week 3. And the 5x8 and the 5x9 have both been pretty straightforward up to this point. But as soon as I go for that 5x10, that seems to be where the trouble starts. It's just like 7 reps or 8 reps or 9 reps or whatever, it's fine. But as soon as I go for that double digits, that's the point where my chest and arms just start running out of gas by the end of the session. It's coming up slowly but surely though. I think I started with 155 pounds using this method a few months ago, and now in my most recent session, I completed the full 5x10 using 175 pounds, so 5 pounds heavier than this session here, and I didn't need to use any rest pause reps or anything to get all the reps in like I did here. So my body must be acclimating to the higher reps and just higher overall workloads here at least a little bit, so that's good. Because I had increased the weight after this session anyway, even though I technically didn't complete the full 5x10, and I think I had done that a few times actually, because to be honest, it's easier to hit 5 sets of 8 with 175 than 5 sets of 10 with 170. But I forced myself to stay with 175 for at least 3 weeks as well, and it paid off there with me hitting the full 5x10 successfully. Hopefully I can work this up to 185 for 5 sets of 10 now in the next few months, which would actually be pretty good for me on this exercise. I'm doing repeat sets of 6 with 200 pounds right now on my heavier session of the week. Same exercise, Larsen press with no leg drive, and hopefully that'll continue to improve steadily as well, because these numbers right now are pretty much right up on par with my best Larsen press numbers from a couple years ago when I focused on this exercise for a little while. So in terms of raw upper body pressing strength, I'm finally starting to get back to decent form, it seems. We'll see what I can do with that in the upcoming year. Oh, and one last thing. I've actually started to do these now with my feet floating off the ground, which you guys will see in the next few sessions. I don't keep my legs straight out in front of me like a lot of people do, but I'm not letting my feet touch the ground anymore like they are here. It hasn't made a difference in terms of strength from what you see here. Like, I'm not weaker or anything. I just wanted to be absolutely sure that, especially as the weight gets heavier, that I'm not starting to drive my feet into the floor without noticing it. So if they're floating, then I can't really be doing that, can I? Anyway, I think that's about all I got for now, guys. Please be sure to like the video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and definitely leave me some love in the comments down below. Keep training hard, and I will catch you guys next time.